From the wilderness that is the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, 8 million acres of magnificent wilderness wonderland, 3.5 million hectares. You can do the maths on that one. My name is James Hendry. Behind the camera is Jean-Dre. That is his hairless thumb, as is the rest of his body. And that's a bit awkward, sorry, I won't ever say that again live. But behind us, the most important part of this, and I will liken it to the hairlessness of Jean-Dre, are the buffalo. And they, of course, with it being 27 degrees centigrade, 81 degrees Fahrenheit, they, of course, do not need much hair because they are very large, and you can see they've got fairly hairless bodies, which, well, I mean, it's a sort of a tenuous link to Jean-Dre, I suppose, in my initial slightly awkward statement. Now, you are on a live safari. That's a herd of about 400 buffalo. And we would love to hear from you during the course of the afternoon. For the next 3 hours, you will be in our company, and also you'll be joined by Scott, and he's being filmed at the moment by Tebs, and they are trying to track Karula, the Queen of Djuma, who we had a magnificent time with this morning. Unfortunately, our signal was a bit dodgy, but Scott actually seems to fix that during the course of the day. So hopefully we'll have unfettered access to the leopard and this herd of buffalo, which is actually moving towards where she was last seen. So, like I say, live safari, and you are most welcome to send us your questions and your comments. Hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarth.TV. That was the Game Drive radio that you heard speaking. I've switched it off now, and now it's just into my brain. So, we are going to spend a bit of time with these buffalo while Scott does the tracking of the leopard, and with any luck he will be successful, and we will be able to perhaps go and join him, but you certainly will be able to join him. Right, here we go. Now, you may notice, everybody, that it's quite windy. And that is important for you to notice, because we were promised rain today by the, well, just basically blatantly untruthful meteorological services that we employ out here. It was supposed to give us about, what was it, John? 7 millimeters or so, which is a decent amount of rain. It's about, well, it's about a quarter of an inch, but for us that's quite a decent amount of rain, but it hasn't happened yet. It has just got very blustery, but we've had this lovely herd of buffalo here, so let's spend some time with them, and we'll keep you posted on Scott and his leopards. In the final control, I did forget to mention, of course, we have Geraldine, and she is being ably assisted by Nicola. To make too much noise. They do get a little bit nervous if we make a huge noise around them. Hello. Let's just actually move around there. Let's follow her into the middle of it. We don't often see big herds of buffalo like this here, and so I really enjoy spending time with them. They're always doing interesting little things. Not disturb that one that's lying down. We'll just drive down the plank here for a while. Much maligned of the buffalo as being boring like cattle. I think that's very unfair. I think they're rather magnificent. There you go. And on a day like today, they will probably, because it's cool, do quite a lot of grazing. In the real heat, they lie down and chew on the cud, and then in the real cold as well, they huddle together and do that. Ooh, there's a spit of rain there, Brian. Quickly, at least, Jean-Dre, batten down the hatches. I'm just going to quickly announce that we found this herd of buffalo on the radio. Let's go a little bit further along the road now. I'm just going to quickly call it in on the radio. Stations, there's a breeding herd of buffalo heading north toward the Gowrie Main into Huyatela, basically at the junction with Rebecca's Road. I I think probably, well, maybe I said 400 initially. That was probably slightly wishful thinking. I think probably about 250 buffalo here. And often hot on the tail of a buffalo herd comes a lion pride. So with any luck, this buffalo herd will either be being followed by the Birmingham boys, I suspect probably only sort of during the course of the night, or the Styx pride from further south of us. We don't know where the Nguhumas are at the moment. Two of the Birmingham boys and one Styx female are on Torchwood still, where they've been for the last 2 days. There we go. Now what's interesting, if you watch these buffalo, they've all lifted their noses up to look at us and smell us, and the wind is coming from directly behind us, so from just basically the back of the camera there, and they can smell us, and they don't like the smell. They're happy to watch us for a while, but as soon as our human scent touches them, they tend to go off in a bit of a huff. They go and off they go, and all around you can hear them going bleh, bleh. There we go, that wasn't me, that was a buffalo. Now, everybody, just before I answer a question from Sean in Secunda, which was obviously sent to us on email. Twitter is apparently down. I don't know what that means. That's sort of beyond me. I suspect it's got a lot to do with traffic going through Twitter. It's not working and not functioning. I'm not sure if that's from this side or if the actual nest where the tweeting actually happens is broken. Anyway, it's not working, so don't bother to send us any tweets at the moment. Send us an email, questions@wildearth.tv, and we'll do our best to answer any questions or queries that you might have. Now, Sean, in Secunda, you would like to know how old buffalo get in this park, in the park. Normally, I would say not much more than 17 or 18 years if they're lucky. Potentially 20 to 25 in captivity, but here I think they'll start to lose condition probably at about 14. And if they lose too much condition, they will eventually be flattened by lions, and that will be the end of that. Not many things here die of old age. Let's go a little bit forward. The herd is moving. There's a calf running around over there. Now I'm going to get back to my discussion on hair, because I think it's really interesting. The larger the animal is out here, the less the hair that it has on its body. And that doesn't relate to Jean-Andre and I, although in fact it does actually relate to Jean-Andre and I, but that's beside the point. I need to really shut up about that. Jean-Andre, point the camera on those buffalo before I say something silly. The bigger you are, the easier it is for you to lose heat, right? And, no, sorry, I'm talking rubbish. The bigger you are, the easier it is for you to maintain heat, right? So, if you are very large, like an elephant, per kilogram of body mass that you have, you will use less energy than you would if you were a mouse per kilogram of body mass. Now what that means is that if you are a very large animal, you need to be able to get rid of heat quickly, and if you're a very small animal, you need to be able to hold heat effectively. And that is the reason that things like elephants and buffalo, well, they're a bit smaller, rhino, hippo, don't have a lot of hair on their bodies. They don't need a huge amount of insulation. Well, in the case of a hippo, they've got a huge load of blubber, but that's I mean, because they live in water. But in the case of something like a mouse or a bush baby or an elephant shrew, they have to have very effective insulation in the hair, because if it gets a bit cold, they'll lose their heat very quickly. Thank you, Paul Rizzo, for crushing my afternoon for me. You've said that this was a slow start this afternoon. Where are the wild dogs? Thank you, Paul. I thought we had quite a nice start with all these buffalo. Paul, the wild dogs are in Elephant Plains, which is one property to the west of Arathusa. So we are sort of central. Then there's Arathusa west of us, and Elephant Plains is west of that. And I'm afraid we can't go there, otherwise we most certainly would. But I agree with you, we have been tremendously spoilt over the last few days with those wild dogs. And I know that you had an absolutely astonishing experience with Brent yesterday afternoon with those elephants and wild dogs. I'm sorry we couldn't find them, people. These beefaloes will have to do for now. Hopefully Scott will find Karula. But there's nothing more high action than wild dogs. So they're all around us here, this herd of buffalo, and I think it's probably quite difficult for you to get an idea of the sense of how many there are. They're still coming from across the road, so there are quite a few. There's one on a... Let's go and have a quick look there. There's one on a termite mound there. He's standing right on the top of it, which makes perfect sense because the grass will be a lot more delicious on top of a termite mound. We actually did a taste test of that the other day. Was that with you, Andre? Or was it Brian? Negative. We'll have to do a taste test with you too. As I was saying, the thing that we're going to hope for with these buffalo is that they're being trailed possibly by a pride of lions. Now, sorry, before I continue with that, do you see how we've turned around, we're coming at the buffalo now with the wind in front of us, and we're much closer than we were to those ones that reacted to us, and she hasn't even lifted her head yet. So smell is a hugely important part of their predator response systems. Trying to get into a position where I can show you this one on his termite mound. So Diane, you were asking about the lions, and I was talking about them earlier. Just coming down off the termite mound is that thing. Diane, we don't know where the lions are at the moment. I don't know where the other Birmingham boys are, and I don't know where the rest of the Styx Pride is. I'm also not sure of the whereabouts of the Salalas. So I think it's quite likely that one or more of those groups will be trailing this herd of buffalo. I think they'll be very lucky if there are no buffalo trailing them at this stage of the game, and they're still coming across the road. There's actually quite a large herd. It might be bigger than 250. I'd say there are probably about 250 of them here now. Alright, let's just ease our way through here. Try not to make too much noise. Hi. Quick look at this little fellow who's watching us. They always look a little doleful at that age. But again, you can see they're very close to us, but because the wind is not blowing into their noses, they're just not that worried about us. So we've kind of eased and inveigled our way into the middle of the herd, which is lovely. I really enjoy being in the middle of the herd. You start to feel part of it. Oh, Jean-Andre, there's one doing a very odd thing. Clearly a bit of an itch. Fascinating. And then licking the bush. That's a slightly awkward. Right, let's move closer in there. All around, the wind is blowing. Blustery day. It's such a relief after the heat we've had this week. It's been so hot. Just to maybe for more of our regular viewers and well, also our newer viewers, just to give you an idea of where we are. We're right on the southern boundary. Just behind us you saw they were crossing the southern boundary, and they're sort of heading in the direction of Treehouse Dam over there, which would be a very wise plan were there any water in it. So I'm not sure what their plan is from here. I suspect that they may pass straight through us and go up to Sydney's dam, which is a very large dam just across our northern border. And of course, look, water is an extremely important part of a buffalo's life. They must drink twice a day if they can, especially when the grass is as dry as it is now. All around us now. Try and get into a position where we can get a decent view of a whole lot of them without making too much noise. Every time I wish to stop, a bush seems to be in the way. And some of them are running away because, again, now the wind is blowing from the right-hand side to the left, straight into this group over here. And Jigger is about as stealthy as a bull in a china shop, so they are well aware of us. There, now you'll get some idea of the extent of the herd. Thank you, curious one. You were obviously on morning drive with us this morning, and we came across, well, Brent came across a hyena, or a group of hyenas with a buffalo leg, and I was very curious, as no doubt you were curious one, as to where that buffalo leg came from. And the postulation from Jane in Toronto was that the leg came from a buffalo, which I thought was a very good analogy, or good solution to the problem. And then there was a whole lot of discussion about whether or not there was a three-legged buffalo running around the place. So, curious one, we will most certainly look out in this herd to see if there is a three-legged buffalo knocking about. Somehow I doubt it. We think that that buffalo leg probably came from a buffalo kill, either on Torchwood or perhaps even a bit south of us. Clearly there's a lot of itch going on in the buffalo herd this afternoon. And just to reiterate, everybody, Twitter appears to have exploded and is not working at the moment, so questions at WildEarthTV on the email at the moment is the only way that you can get hold of us. So if you're tweeting frantically, we aren't ignoring you, I promise. Thank you, Joyce and Diane, for setting my mind at ease that this is not in fact a terrible sighting to start with, just because it's not wild dogs. Thank you, Joyce and Diane. I am also enjoying the buffalo. Paul, I hope that you are also enjoying the buffalo. I'm taking your comment tongue-in-cheek, otherwise of course that'd be deeply insulting. And they've all calmed down. Of course you were joking, Paul, so don't worry, I haven't taken you seriously at all. It's so nice that they've all calmed down. You're sitting in the middle of them, they're grazing around very peacefully. And I don't know that there are any lions hot on their trail, because I think they'd be a lot more upset. That said, on a day like this, calm, or not calm, cool, and windy, it's not impossible for lions to actually do their hunting during the day. This is interesting. So what's that buffalo eating now? Taking very dry grass, and every so often it'll take a little nibble of leaves from some of the saplings that it goes past. It probably won't do that now, but it certainly did just when I thought about it. Also, notice the tongue. The tongue is an extremely important part of the way that buffalo graze. They don't crop the grass with their teeth. They pull their tongues around it and then kind of snap it free. And buffalo play an enormously important role in the ecology of areas, and I think that you will find this area could support a lot more buffalo than it actually has. Well, there are various reasons for why there aren't as many as there might be. But what they do is that they fertilize the soil, of course, with their dung, which is very important. They also have an effect on the soil surface. They break it up. So after we have rain, you know, it forms a sort of crust over the soil, and when the buffalo come through, they break it up and they mix the grass seeds into the soil, and they get them deep down in there, and what that does is really increase the health of the grass sward. So they're tremendously important animals, our buffalo, for the health of what we call rangelands or grazing areas. We'll try and sneak a little bit forward now. We can sneak a bit because there are not many trees in front of us. I'm just going to get hold of Aubrey. He's trying to come to this buffalo sighting. Orbs, they are now probably about approaching Philemon's cut line, so your best approach is to come either Rebecca's or Philemon's cut line. So just in case you're wondering, this radio is speaking to game drives from some of the commercial lodges around here where people come on safari. And Aubrey is one of the guys who works at Djuma, which is the reserve we're working on here. Look at this chap here. Young bull. Some way off his prime yet. He also looks a bit doleful, doesn't he? Don't worry, fellas, you get bigger, it'll get easier. Again, you see the wind blows into them. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of you wondering here. You hear stories that buffalo are the most dangerous animals in the African bushveld. Don't go near a buffalo. And Steph, you obviously noticed that we're sitting in the midst of probably, well, I mean, I'm looking all behind me now, I'd say at least sort of 300, possibly more. And Steph, you want to know, has a game drive vehicle ever been charged by a herd of buffalo like this? Steph, I know of a few times when a buffalo has hit a car, mainly when they're being chased by lions and they get extremely irritated and they kind of take their frustration out on the first thing they see. But in a herd like this, there really is very little danger at all. They will normally move away. We haven't cornered any of them, so if they don't want to be around us, they just simply move away. And that is never to say that you take these things for granted. You don't drive into these sightings sort of without due care and consideration, but in a buffalo herd it is highly, highly unlikely that you could ever induce them to charge the vehicle. They would almost certainly stampede and run away. You might also be able to hear the chip, 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 pss, pss, chip, chip. That's the oxpeckers flying around the herd, and they'll be landing on the buffalo, eating off the ticks. What is that in there? It's a duiker. There's a little duiker walking. Can you see it, John Ray? spotted. Ah, you're a genius. Look at that. Not a duiker, a steenbok. I saw it, and we're so close to where... What is it? It is a duiker. We're so close to where... oh, hooray. Scott has a possible surprise for you. See you just now.
Hello everyone, my name is Scott and welcome on board with me. Tebs is on camera. We've come across something quite interesting. We've just arrived there, so we're not actually sure whether we're imagining things or whether we are actually in luck. But basically, as I try and stay with this herd of wildebeest, as we arrived here, one of the cows was standing with the back legs spread wide open, and our initial thoughts were that she might be giving birth. But it could be a false alarm. Maybe she's merely constipated. She stood like that for quite a while. I didn't see any dung pellets coming out. So it could have been a toilet break, or it could just be the initial signs of labor. And we did see 5 wildebeest give birth last year, so we had incredible fortune with regards to capturing these animals giving birth. It's not something that you get lucky with that often, although last year that was the case. I remember my first drive on Safari Live. Within minutes I saw a wildebeest giving birth, and that was the first and last time I've ever seen it happen. We are keeping up with them, and I've been keeping an eye on the same female that was standing awkwardly. And I'm just going to stop here, probably, just so that you can get a glimpse of her. She's just disappearing off into the thickets there. Not going to be easy for Tebs, but she may turn off to the right. Yeah, she's popping into screen there, the one that's in the middle of your screen. Not easy though, because it is very thick. And evidently, even if she was in the initial stages of labor, it's nothing too serious, as it seems to have stopped completely, that awkward posture she was standing in. But it is definitely worth keeping a close eye out for animals giving birth. We are at that time of the year now, and the impala will also start giving birth very shortly. Let's try and loop ahead of the herd, and we'll spend some time with them. And Joe in Wales must be very happy, because they asked specifically to spend some time with some pregnant animals, and that's going to happen for you right now, Joe. I hope everything is going well in Wales. It's a country that I've never been to, but hopefully it won't be too long before I get there to see what it's all about. It's a tricky thing knowing where to stop, but I think this should work out okay. So all different shapes and sizes. Some you'll see their horns go kind of straight up out of their heads. Those are the younger ones. So on the left there's a good example of that out of the 2 you're looking at, and on the right is an adult. The one on the left would have been born this time last year, so a yearling. But majority of this herd is made up of adults, it looks like. You'll probably find a lot of their youngsters didn't make it through, which is common in nature. Now, I have been attempting to track down Karula, the female leopard. We spent some time with her just after the morning drive until about 9 o'clock, so we spent an hour with her. and she was on the move for the majority of that hour, but we left her sleeping on a termite mound and returned to that same termite mound, and her tracks headed south and east away from that, and followed them for a short distance through the block. It was really tricky going in this overcast weather. It's so difficult to see tracks, and obviously had to get back into the vehicle and abandon those tracks at some points. So we're just going on the fact that we've got a general idea of which direction she was moving in, and now we're just going to keep working this area in the hope that she may poke her head up. And I've got a strong feeling that she is going to stop by the Djuma waterhole for a drink this evening, so it will be worth keeping an eye on that cam. And we're so fortunate to have that, as well as you guys, the viewers and the zoomies, controlling it, because it means we can kind of leave that area to be scouted on by others. Well, not too much food around for these wildebeest, but they are doing their best to nibble on the fresh green shoots that are popping up. And in this overcast weather, they must be hoping that it's going to bring some rain. They need rain desperately, these animals, or the food that they require needs the rain. So tough times for them, and it's going to be tricky for all the herbivores who give birth and have the pressure of having to raise young with a year that's not nearly as nutritious as it normally would be. Look how big some of the adults' bellies are. And I've lost track of who's who. I don't know which one was the female that I saw standing awkwardly earlier. But all of these females will be kind of probably within a couple of weeks of one another in terms of their pregnancy. Maybe even less than that. You'll probably find they're all conceived at a very similar period, and therefore in all likelihood all give birth at a very similar period, and that's why we got so many births within that kind of 2-week period, the second 2 weeks of November last year. I think I was the 5th and final calf, if I am not mistaken. I'm told the Twitter sphere is chatting about Brian and his mother, a wildebeest who had a slightly deformed horn, so we could tell her apart from the others very easily. And I'm sure a lot of you, the newer viewers, don't exactly know who Brian and his mother are. So let me tell you a little bit about them. They are two of the wildebeest that gave birth, well, one of the wildebeest that gave birth last year. Brian was the calf, named after Brian, the cameraman, who filmed that, and his mother didn't get a name. She was just named Brian's mom. And he was killed by Lion, the Nkuhuma pride, if my memory serves me correctly, or the calf at least was, and his mother was seen running around searching frantically for that calf. Nobody actually saw the kill being made, but the remains of the carcass were seen being chewed on by the Nkuhuma pride, and like I said, she was running around calling desperately, looking for her calf, which she never found. A few weeks later, she too was killed by a lion. I can't remember which ones, and I can't remember if they did see the lions actually feeding on her carcass, but they did find her skull, again with its deformed horn that was easily differentiable between the other wildebeest. So that's just a story about Brian and his mother, the wildebeest that you guys are chatting about on Twitter. I'll try to park us in a bit of a low angle here, and we may be able to get some great shots of them feeding, because we're almost going to be eye level with them, which is a unique view. Will be certainly, I think, be a little bit better than the view we had previously when we were kind of shooting down on them. You may have noticed the wildebeest jumped out and got a little bit of a fright earlier. That's because of this windy weather. One of our regular viewers, Raisa, points out an interesting thing about wildebeest giving birth. And last year the trend was that they would have almost kind of half the calf protruding from the rear end of their mother, and the wildebeest would walk around for quite some time in this state before eventually lying down to actually give birth, the final little push. So thanks, Raisa, that is exactly what happened, and I didn't mention that, so good that we are mentally prepared for what is going to happen. And like you say, they are going to be walking around for a little bit with the majority of the calf protruding, and then eventually they will lie down to get rid of the final little bit of the labor. Look at their bellies. You can see also from the side profiles we're getting, they're extremely big. I think I can hear a little bit of thunder in the far distance. So again, good prospects for some rain this afternoon, hopefully after drive, so it doesn't impact on what we're doing. If it does rain, we are going to have to go and seek refuge under a shelter. We are not currently in any position to be out filming during the rain. Good, well, I think it's safe to say that the wildebeest in this herd don't look like they're going to be giving birth in the next couple of minutes, so we'll possibly try and track them down tomorrow and keep watching them closely until we are in a favorable position to see one give birth. Oh, jackpot! We've just found another bird's nest. Now this is going to blow your minds. After the other bird's nest that we have seen, in cavities, very well constructed, this is the polar opposite. A haphazard, very poor example of how to build a nest. Although it does work, it's one of the most successful birds in this area. I'm just trying to get Tebs into a good spot. Have you seen it, Tebs? It's on our left here. Can you believe it? Out in the open, a very, very haphazard mesh of twigs. And this is a Cape turtle dove's nest. Now, it was difficult to get you into a good spot to see how many eggs there are actually in this tree. So I'm just going to stand up quickly and see if I can count. It's more than one, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if one is blown out of the nest in this weather. I can just see 2 eggs, and I'm going to take a quick picture just to show you what it looks like from above. So that's that. You can see really, like I said, haphazard nest structure. There's the 2 eggs sitting on it, and what a luck, at least we have found another bird's nest. You'll be able to at least see the chicks in this nest very easily, far easier than the nest with the lilac-breasted Arola chicks, which is in a deep cavity on a tree, or even the white-crowned shrike nest, which we had a look at this morning and yesterday, I think, or the day before, which is quite high up in a tree. If these eggs do successfully hatch, you'll be able to come back here and see these little fledglings out in the open. Also a good example of how easy it would be for a predator to get to that nest. It's not high off the ground, although it is in a very thorny combination of trees. It's in a buffalo thorn and a small knobthorn acacia. Bonus! Well, that's a pleasant surprise. Okay, we're going to keep scratching around for any sign of this female leopard called Karula, and we're going to send you back to James and the large herd of buffalo.
That man, and I mean Scott Dyson, not the buffalo that you're looking at, is a nest magnet. He has managed to find an astonishing number of birds' nests. Probably comes from a childhood of robbing them in the rural areas of Natal, but be that as it may, it's being put to magnificent effect today. He also found the other day, when we were just out tracking, we found a weaver's nest with a little blue egg that had been thrown out, and we think that the eggs remaining inside the nest, which Scott found, of course, lending further credence to my theory, he didn't rob them, we left them there, were probably from cuckoos that had pushed the little weaver's nest or weaver's egg out onto the ground. Anyway, it's a beautiful blue colour of the red-headed weaver. So we're still with the buffalo herd. They're still moving gently past us, some of them grazing, some of them lying down to chew the cud. We had one that was dribbling profusely just now, and that's very usual, very common, and it's why they need to drink so much. Buffalo produce an astonishing amount of saliva to help them cope with the dry food that they eat, and because of that they need a lot of water. So we'll spend a few more minutes with this rather lovely herd, and then we'll keep going and see what else we can see. Now we have some good news and then a brilliant question. The good news is that Twitter is back online from whatever stopped it up. It's now back, so you can tweet us, #Safari Live, if you find the email a tiresome affair. And Carolyn, you've sent us a question, which I think is an excellent one. And you want to know, do all these buffalo know each other? A, and B, if so, how do they know each other? Carolyn, I would think you'll find there'll be a general kind of knowledge of each other. I think that they do have kind of an inner circle. Each buffalo will not be quite as close to other buffalo, and that will be determined by their relations. So they'll be closest, obviously, to their siblings and their parents. There's a little one here coming past us, Andrew, if you want him. So cousins and aunts and sisters and relatives will be much closer to each other and recognize each other much more readily than will, say, distant friends. But these buffalo herds do link up. Often big herds like this will form up to sort of 1,500 or 1,000 in an area like this. When the water gets really, really low, they start to move in much bigger herds because the water is that much more concentrated. And I don't think they know each other all in a herd like that, Carolyn. I think you'll find that they probably hardly know one another. In terms of that's the thunder. Isn't that marvellous? A big herd of buffalo and the wonderful sound of thunder rolling across the African wilderness. Recognising each other, Carolyn, I think it's purely by smell. Maybe a little bit by sight, but there'll be definitely a huge amount of smell involved in it. There seems to be either horsing around or they've been frightened by something. No, I think they're just messing about. Let's move slowly through there. So Carolyn, I think you'll probably find some of them will recognise each other on the sight. They do have fairly individual looks, but I think that smell will form the most important part of their recognition of each other. Definitely, if you look at like an impala herd where they look almost exactly the same, to our eyes anyway, I think smell is hugely important. Now, a question from Arkansas, but I'm afraid I didn't catch the name, so I'm going to ask it very slowly in my ear. From Geraldine. Rhenosters. That's an interesting name from Arkansas. Rhenosters, you have asked, and this is an important one in an open system like this. We've got lots of grazing animals, and you want to know in tough times like this, I mean, if Jean-Andre just pans down here, you can see that there is very little grass for the buffalo to eat. And rhenosters, you want to know, is there ever a time when the lodge owners would bring in hay or lucerne to feed the animals? Rhenosters, no. We consider this an open system. We try and interfere as little as possible, and so, you know, if things get really dire, then unfortunately the animals kind of die off a bit. But in the smaller reserves where you don't have, you know, this vast swathe of unfenced land which animals are free to come and go in as they please, then what you'll find is that the owners will bring in salt licks, and sometimes they'll bring in hay and that sort of thing. But not in an open system like this. And obviously, I mean, it's a conflicted statement, that, because while I say it's an open system, which of course it is, the fact that we do provide water means that, you know, we do interfere a bit. But no, I've never heard of anybody bringing food in here. This cow's either lost her horn or she's got a malformed horn. There's a moth on your lens I'm going to try and remove for you. Sorry, it's been bugging me since we started. This is one of these difficult ones that I really can't answer. MJ, you want to know what those two digits on the back of the foot are called? You can see them quite nicely here on this animal here. MJ, I don't know what they're called, I'm afraid, other than hind digits. But I'd be most appreciative if somebody could send through an answer, and if anyone knows, perhaps there's some cattle farmers amongst you who might have an idea. But many of the bovids and antelope have got those kind of vestigial digits, and I think they're probably quite useful when they're moving up and down slopes. But otherwise, I don't know what they're called, and I don't know what they're for. Good one, thank you, MJ. I was actually just looking at them when your question came through, and thinking to myself, I wonder what those are called. You can hear also the lack of bird song. I think it's quite interesting on a day like today. As the sun comes out, you get the robins start to call immediately, but when it's cold, not cold, it's cooler and blustery like this, the birds tend to go very silent. So I'm going to be quiet for the next 20 seconds or so and just have a listen to what you can hear. There you can see, there's one or two birds calling in the distance. A red-crested corhan, an oriole way away, but otherwise it's very quiet bird-wise, and the distant low rumble of thunder, which hopefully will give us something in the way of rain today. It certainly looks very grey off behind us, although in front of us there looks rather splendidly bright and warm. You wonder what are you laughing at? Right, so let's nip around the side, and then I think we'll probably go and see what else we can find. Yeah, in the Sabi Sands. Seem to be stuck, everybody. There we go. Once we locked the diff, it was fine. Now, Brian in Philadelphia, who we had the marvelous pleasure of meeting at Arathusa, Brian, you want to know how long it is that the bulls will stay in the herd before they go off and form bachelor groups. Brian, a buffalo bull, like I said, probably starts to lose condition at about 13 or 14 years. So they will stay in the herd probably till they're about 13. But also, sometimes you find the young bulls will join up with some older bulls, because the reason they don't like to be with the herd is that they can't compete with for mating opportunities. And so it's kind of pointless them being in the herd if they can't mate. So sometimes young bulls will join up with a group of old bulls and then rejoin the herd later on. So I think the simple answer to your question is about 13. The complicated answer is, well, it just depends sometimes on what mating opportunities there are. It's getting a little bit thick in here. Not ideal for these buffaloes. Gracie in Ohio, aged just 8 years. Gracie, we spoke about a three-legged buffalo earlier, and I'm afraid it was a joke that one of our viewers made. It was a very funny joke. Well, a bit gruesome, but quite funny. And Gracie, there's no three-legged buffalo. It was the buffalo leg that we found this morning was from a buffalo that was killed by lions already. Somebody made a joke that maybe it came from a buffalo and it was still a buffalo with 3 legs. But there's no ways that a buffalo with 3 legs could run away from a lion, Gracie. I've never seen a 3-legged buffalo. Unlike, say, a dog or a monkey, which can survive with 3 legs, I don't think a buffalo would survive very long at all with only 3 legs. So we'll just make our way gently out of the sighting onto the road. Oh, what a very, very clever question, also from a slightly, or not, a young viewer in Ohio. You're 9, Matthew. And what a brilliant question. You want to know, can cows ever live with buffalo? You know that actually does happen out here sometimes. Sometimes you get farms where people breed buffalo, and because the mothers can be a little bit difficult, what they do is that they give the babies, if they're orphaned, they give them to cows. And Jersey cows or Friesian cows will feed and raise buffalo very happily. So it does happen, and they can live very happily together if they have to. They wouldn't in this area, of course, because there are no cows in the game reserve, but outside of the game reserve, sometimes you do find a buffalo will get out and move into a herd of cows. So they get on with each other very well. Yes, the thunder is now rolling rather close to our heads. The odd spit of rain. So a couple of answers. Thank you to Raisa and Country Chick for the conundrum of the vestigial digits on the back end of these buffalo's legs. We're quite close to this bull here. He's only about 9 feet away, so we'll stop here. So those vestigial digits there that you can see on the back end of that bull, Raisa, you say they're called false hooves. There we go, got it out, well done. And Country Chick, you've also read that they're called dew claws. I think I've read that they're called dew claws, just like they are on dogs. False hooves I didn't know, but thank you both very much. I will now know next time. MJ, I hope that answers your question. Right. Let's go and see what else we can see. The odd spit of rain is falling on us. There's a deeply aged cow there. She's not a youngster anymore. You can see that from the lack of hair on her bottom and on her head. Very nice information from Diane in Michigan, thank you. Right, so as with I think all mammals, buffalo have 5 digits. Jean-Andre is just going to put the rain cover on, so if there's a shushing noise, that's him putting the rain cover on. Diane, as you said, most mammals have got 5 digits. And in the case of the buffalo, 1 you say is absent completely, so maybe they've only got 4. 2 and 5 are those false dew claws, and 3 and 4 are the 2 digits that make up the cloven hoof, and I think they're called clubs. So thank you very much for that. That's actually really wonderful information. John-Ray, do you think you're going to get pelted? Try and cut away. Okay, thank you. Okay. We're going to try and see if we can't get Scott to take you onto his car for a little while we try and put the rain cover on here. Otherwise, no, Scott is a black screen, so I'm afraid you're going to be with us. Well, I mean, it's quite interesting to see how Andre puts the cover on. I'm going to put my cover on now. There is definitely a storm coming in from the southwest, which is quite nice. And then we will get on with things. There's the cover, everybody. Hold on, Andre. Tell me when you're ready. Put all of our things in our waterproof boxes. Okay. That's me telling Jerry she can put the audio back up. I think we're done. Jean-Ray, are you not done? Do you want to put on a jacket? Or you just going to brave the weather? You do want to put on a jacket? No, you don't. Jean-Ray is very tough. He doesn't need a jacket at all. He will also have pneumonia by tomorrow. So a wonderful comment here as I'm going to just show you the storm coming in here, and then I think we might have to run for home, to be honest. Marianne, in Arkansas, you say that when all the cows get into a group and lie down in the middle of the day, it means that rain is coming, and it's an old farmer's tale. Well, that's marvellous. These chaps, of course, weren't lying down, but maybe it's true in Arkansas. There's lightning. That's not great. Okay, what we're going to do, everybody, I'm going to just take you to the edge of this sort of viewpoint. We'll look at the amazing sort of grey cloud coming in. Then we're going to make our way pretty much for home. We're happy to take the odd spit of rain, but lightning can be quite bad out here. So we're not going to hang around if there's lightning, especially with a great big antenna sticking out the back of our car. We'll just have a quick look here. We're right here, and then we'll run for home. Wowza. So that looks like proper rain to me. If we look down over there, we can't even see any of the hills or the mountains. I think there's a big storm blowing in from there. I think we're going to head for home now and just make sure if we're on quarantine and the thunder starts, then we can decide whether we're going to hang around or not. For now we're a bit far away, and if lightning does start to throw itself around, not the ideal. In fact, it will be unpleasant. Kathleen and Orphewa, you'd rather, thank you, I think it's a good comment, you'd rather see the rain, or see us have rain, than watch the safari at the moment because it's so dry and because of all the animals. So I think you might be right. I just hope it does actually develop into some proper rain. Right, let us run for home. Buffalo here on our right hand side. Karula was just off here to the left at some stage today, so we'll drive slowly past and just keep an eye on her. I'm not sure where Scott is at this stage of the game, but I've no doubt that he's still soldiering on. Yeah, it looks like a staffy is our Scott. Once he gets the bit between his teeth, that is a horribly mixed metaphor, but once he gets the bone in his jaws, he doesn't let go of it. He's very, very determined indeed. Sorry, Jean, I know you hate it when I mix metaphors. Donna Wan, thank you for your quoting of the song by Toto. God bless the rains down in Africa. Not, as the final control said, Johnny Clegg at all, but Toto. Wonderful, wonderful song. And I'm not going to sing it for you now. I'm concentrating too hard on driving. John, don't look at me like that. John is looking very sulky that I'm not singing. The final control is now very cross because I threw them under the bus. You know, sometimes, you know, possibly was a little unkind. So wonderful update from Lady Macbeth. Thank you. You said that there's been a lot of electrical activity around Tembe Elephant Park, which is just south of Swaziland, and you want to know if any of the rain has reached the Greater Kruger. I think they had a little bit in the south earlier today, and I certainly know that Natal got some good rain yesterday. So I think it's coming up the coast, and with any luck it'll reach us here. The south of the park is definitely wetter than the north, and the west is definitely wetter than the east. So I think it's probably hit the south by now, and parts of the park will be getting a little bit of rain now. But I don't think it's certainly not an enormous downpour just yet. Doesn't seem to be getting any worse, I must say. So we'll just keep heading gently for home and watching behind us, because it does seem to be coming in. Some zebras. Now, of course, the other thing you've got to watch out for when a large grey cloud comes over is hail. In Cindy in North Carolina, you want to know if we get any hail here. Not so. I've seen a few hailstorms around this area, and I know there was a very bad one a few years ago in this area, but covered a very tiny part of a reserve and struck while they were on game drive, and all the guests had to climb under the Land Rovers to stop being hurt by these golf ball sized hailstones. So yes, we do get hail here, not very often. In Johannesburg up on the Highveld, hail is very common though, especially in those afternoon thunderstorms. That's a put a fear in my head. Thank you, Cindy. I'll just keep looking off to the left here, hoping to see young Karula. Lightning going. We've chatted quite a lot about lightning, and Helen, you want to know how many animals get hit by lightning? Very few, Helen. I think, you know, the chances of being hit by lightning are obviously extremely small at the best of times, and I think the animals very seldom get hit by lightning. You do sometimes find places where lightnings hit the ground just next to a whole lot of animals, and you can get, say, 3 or 4 dead impala or something like that. But yeah, very seldom does it hit an animal directly, the same way that it would probably not hit us. We of course do have a enormous antenna sticking out of the back of the car that is producing electricity and microwaves, and so I don't know that it's particularly wise to be knocking about while lightning is in the air. It's certainly not got bad yet, but in case it does, we're just going to head towards home. Allowing everybody, we will be having a fireside chat tomorrow, and Donna, your suggestion is noted, and we will be acquiescing to it. We will be having a fireside chat tomorrow, weather allowing, probably not tonight in the weather, but tomorrow we will certainly do that, and I think that the focus will be on wild dogs, which will be rather fun, and some amazing wild dog action. Big grey cloud behind us. I'll just stop at the top here and you can see it. Alright, well, while we do that, let's head there's some big lightning. Let's head across to Scott for an update, and I'll see you just now. So, on the fire, and as James says, it's been quite some time since we've had a campfire chat or fireside chat, and certainly looking forward to that. Now, despite
and Jamie found Karula, who we rushed off to, and his tracks looked to continue. Or possibly, I'm thinking it's Konuma from the size of the tracks, a young male, and the two of them could well pop out at the Djuma waterhole camera at any stage, because his tracks, as well as her tracks, were heading in that general direction. He could also continue up towards Buffelshoek Waterhole, which is where we've decided to come to now. And it's basically the only other water source on Djuma other than the water around the camp. So in these dry conditions, we may find animals around there. Even though it's cold, animals still need water to drink. So that's why we've decided to head out here. Now that I've got onto higher ground, I can see the storm that James is talking about, which is to our south. Once we get to the waterhole, I'll be able to show it to you. And now he's trying to call me to warn me. Go ahead, James. Copy that. Thanks, James. I've just got onto higher ground now and have a visual of that. Thank you. And once we get to the waterhole, we should have a fairly decent vantage point out to the south, where most of this bad weather appears to be coming from, and that is the usual direction it comes from. The problem that I'm facing, though, is that on so many occasions we've raced back towards shelter as it looks like the rain is coming straight for you, and then it passes by and you don't even catch any of it. So I'm more inclined to sit it out and wait until we get caught in the rainstorm, and then we just cover the vehicle with a little piece of plastic, which we have done in the foot, until the storm passes, and then slowly make our way back to camp. But I fear that James's predictions may well be the better ones in this scenario. But it is important to remember that even though it looks like the storm is going to catch it, very often just passes straight by. And we're just going through a bit of a bad patch of signal, I presume, so I'm going to stop answering your question, Barbara. Good, I hope you're back with us now, but Barbara, we do not get tornadoes. The signal. Third time lucky, Barbara, we do not get tornadoes in South Africa, or earthquakes that much. We are very lucky in terms of natural disasters. We are not affected by many at all, if any. Very seldomly will we experience earthquakes, cyclones, tornadoes, or tsunamis. I think. see that Tebs just needs to wipe the raindrops off the lens quickly. You can hear the thunder now rumbling around us. And I think these giraffe have just finished drinking. I can't move any further forward or get into a better spot really. Or no, I lie. Let me try and reposition here. Just the signal's a bit shaky, but I should be able to get up onto some high ground where we'll be able to look back onto them. Look at the dark clouds out to the south there. Okay, you should be able to get a better view now, but they don't look like they are going to be drinking anytime soon. It could be the thunder that's putting them off, hard to tell. Whether they've drunk or not, whether they're a little bit nervous, or what exactly is happening. And it was just a couple of days ago that you were lucky enough to see a giraffe drinking here with James. What are they looking at quite intently? Giraffe are wonderful animals when it comes to spotting predators, especially animals like leopard. And one or two of them are looking quite inquisitively into the bush on their right hand side. What do you guys know of there? They're not going to run from a leopard. They know that a leopard's far too small to pose a threat to them. Almost certain there's something in there. Look at how all three of them, or two of them at least, are, now we can see all three are staring intently into those bushes. Is it the thunder that's unnerving them together with the wind, or is there another animal moving through there that may not be a predator, like a warthog or an impala? They would also catch the giraffe's attention. The fact that two of them are looking in opposite directions and just the one still looking in that bush makes me more confident that there isn't anything serious there, but certainly going to be worth keeping tabs on. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the thunder, but it certainly is rumbling around us. I'll be surprised if you can't. And we might be in luck. Is this giraffe coming for a drink? I think it is. Again, very cautious around waterholes. It's an area where prey species can be ambushed by predators. Come on, Mr. Giraffe. We would love to see you drink. I can't remember when last I actually saw a giraffe drinking. And they've got a wonderful way of flicking their heads up as they finish their little sip, and it sends a trail of water flying through the air. This is a male. You can see the little bald patches on the top of his ossicones. Useful that we are parked basically above him, as it's making it easier to see these little bald spots. I think we maybe should go back there and have a closer look at what they're looking at. They're still looking quite intently into those bushes. I just want to get to the bottom of it. Imagine if there's a leopard lying there. It's certainly possible. Hello Matty, how are you doing? Good to know you're watching. And don't worry Matty, I don't think we have to get worried yet about this storm, but thank you for being worried about us out here. I'm going to make sure nothing happens to us and we can keep taking you guys on safari. So no problems at all. Like Texan stopped here for a quick sundowner. Not going to be watching the sun go down this evening, but that's what he's come here to do. We've just passed by. Now, these giraffes were looking very intently in this direction here. Come on, leopard. Come on. You guys see, again, in very windy conditions, it's not uncommon for prey animals to be a little bit irrational and but no leopard here. We once found a sleeping tank left here. Hello Tex. Good luck everyone. Nothing. Oh, you got to see the lightning amongst all of the black screen. It's difficult for me to communicate with you because halfway through every sentence the screen cuts out, as it will again now. I think we have finally reached a point where we can have an unbroken conversation, hopefully. And the ground now, so that's the good news. What I'm planning on doing is finding a vantage point just up ahead of us here somewhere where we can stop and take a look at, which seems to me like it's moving past. But again, it's always very difficult to tell. So we are getting to that point now, and this is going to be awesome. Try and work out where exactly will be best for this. And if we just sit here patiently for a few minutes, maybe Tebs can pan slightly across to the right and then back to the left to that similar spot, and then you'll catch some of this lightning. The animals are going to be overjoyed if it rains. And I'm sure a lot of you live in parts of the world where you may not be fortunate enough to get big electrical thunderstorms. They really are exciting. I love them. And we hardly had any last year. We had a very dry, rainy season then, and this year has been even worse so far, and experts predict that it will continue to be an abnormally dry season. So this may be one of very few electrical storms that we get to see. Oh! I think you might have got a big one there. I was looking up at the sky, not down at my monitor, but I think fairly certain Tebs was in the right spot there. Obviously it's impossible for a cameraman to predict where the next bolt of lightning is going to appear from, so not easy business. What I'm going to try and do is take a kind of slow shutter speed picture with my camera and see if we can't capture a bolt coming down. It's a process of trial and error, but worth having a shot at. What would be nice now is if a leopard just kind of walked out in front of us. It's possible, and it would be a very pleasant surprise. Now, one thing that this lightning could bring, which a lot of you would not expect, is a fire. And because the bush is so dry at the moment, any lightning strikes that hit a tree, even if it is raining, the fire may overwhelm the rain and win the competition. And that would mean the animals who are already going to suffer this dry season have got even less food to feed on. And it also means we'll be out fighting fires, which is a very scary thing out here, but something to be aware of. It is possibly going to happen. I've got some great news, everyone, and a very good friend of mine that I've known since I was about 5 years old has tuned into the safari. Hello, Davy. Davy is a Afrikaans kind of name or alternative for Dave, and his regular name is Dave, but he's got the Afrikaans nickname Davy. Davy, good to know you're watching, and he would like to know if I've had any dangerous encounters or close calls with lightning whilst out guiding. And actually, Davy, haven't had any. Let's take a closer look at the lightning while I chat to you though. I haven't had any close calls out in the bush other than the results of the lightning, which was dealing with fires that they caused. Oh, look at that one. That one was awesome. That was a serious bolt out there. But Dave, you'll remember at school we got a lot of close shaves whilst playing our touch rugby games in the pouring rain. So I guess that could and probably was actually the closest encounters I've had. Okay. Great questions just come through from Patty Cook, and I'd like to know if animals ever get injured or nervous in the rain. And Patsy, they certainly will get nervous and then potentially injured, but not all animals. You'll probably find it'll be individuals, and just like humans, different animals have different personalities and traits. Some animals may be more scared of loud noises than others. I guess kind of similar to pets. Some dogs will react negatively to lightning and others won't. But generally, the animals won't be too concerned that I've seen. Now, you can hear my camera's taking quite a while to close the shutter, so it goes chick, chick. And I'm hoping by giving it that longer period of time to absorb the light, it's going to have enough time to catch a stray bolt of lightning. But you just have to fire off randomly. That one kind of worked, but the bolt wasn't big enough and bright enough. But did get it. But I'm picking the wrong opportunities here. Clearly, as every time I'm taking a photo, there's no lightning. Isn't this beautiful though? Some very different scenery. Hello to Gecko, who's another fan of trying to capture lightning. And oh, that was a serious one. I got a bit of that. That was awesome. And Gecko uses his GoPro or her GoPro to capture lightning storms. Good idea. Speaking of GoPros and capturing strange things, if any of you have yet to see the video of Karula walking over my GoPro this morning, it's worth having a look on my Facebook page, Scott Dyson Safaris, because it is some crazy footage. You literally get to see the belly of Karula, a female leopard. It's a view that I'm sure none of you would have ever seen before, and worth taking a closer look at. They are wonderful tools, those. And Gecko, I hope you have some good luck with capturing some lightning in the future, and let us know when your rainy season is or where in the world you are, Gecko, so we can understand when next we'll be expecting to see some of your pics. So it looks like the storm has passed by us, or most of it has. So it's passed by to the south of Djuma, it looks like. It came close though. But as I say that, we are getting a few loud drops, heavy drops falling onto us. The animal that is most likely to be affected by lightning is naturally going to be the tallest animal, and that is the giraffe. I know a couple of you have expressed concern for them and asked whether they are the most likely ones to be affected, and yes, most certainly, but then again, it's not very often that that does happen. I've never myself found a giraffe that has been killed by lightning, but I'm sure it does happen, and because of their height, they will be the most vulnerable and susceptible to a lightning strike. Something important to remember is to never seek refuge under a tree when there is lightning, and that is something that some of you may not be aware of, especially if you are living in areas where there are not a lot of electrical storms. It would usually be your kind of instinctual go-to place to seek shelter under a tree, but that tree acts like a lightning conductor because it's tall, and you catch all of the extra electricity that is being dispersed out of that tree. Okay, then we've got little bit of excitement for you guys. There's a slow motion clip of a lightning bolt that Tara and Nikki and Jerry have prepared in the final control room. So enjoy it. I can't wait to see it, and we'll see you shortly afterwards. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that clip. I'm going to need to start packing up now and say goodbye, because I think we may get caught. Well, we're already getting caught in it, but it's been great fun. Thanks, Tibbs on camera. Thanks, Jerry in the final control. We're going to rush back to camp. That's the end of the safari. It'll be Brent and Jamie out in the morning. Thanks so much. Sorry it's short, but you can see there is some serious weather on the way. Bye.